Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Lillian, and here I share stories, thoughts, and moments from my friends. The day my daughter told me I wasn't energetic enough for the family trip was the day I stopped pretending I still belonged. She said it gently, like she always does when she's about to say something cruel. "Mom," she began, pushing her phone a little farther from the toddler's grabbing hands, "it's not that we don't want you there. We just think it might be a bit much for you this year." I stood at my kitchen counter, staring at the slowly leaking tea bag in my chipped mug. The dog was barking in the yard. My back hurt. My left knee always hurt. But it wasn't that bad. Not bad enough to be left behind. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice too even, too calm. She exhaled, annoyed I hadn't picked up on the message. "The hiking, the heat. You know how you get tired. We just thought it might be better for you to rest this year. Take some time for yourself." She always says that. Take some time for yourself. Like it's a gift I didn't earn. I nodded, though she couldn't see me through the phone. "So you're going without me?" "We're not excluding you, Mom. It's just, we don't want you to feel pressured to keep up. You've done so much for us. You deserve a break." There it was, packaged like gratitude, tied with the ribbon of concern. And I swallowed it. I said, "Of course," and "You're right," and I smiled at nothing while the tea went cold. But 3 days later, when I dropped off my grandson's extra floaties at their house, the same house I helped them buy when they were struggling, the same house I babysat in for 3 years without ever being paid, I saw her mother-in-law's suitcase in the hallway, bright red, brand new, with a sun hat hooked on the handle. "Patricia, the fun grandma, the one who brings Costco cookies and calls screen time bonding, the one who calls me old-fashioned because I still believe in home-cooked dinners." She was going on the trip. Not too tired, not too fragile. She got to go. I got to rest. I didn't cry until I was back in my car, and even then it was quiet. One of those back-of-the-throat cries that never makes it to your face. My hands trembled on the wheel, but I didn't turn the key. I just sat there, watching the little flamingo decal on their mailbox. I used to love flamingos. Now I couldn't remember why. For days I went through the motions. I watered their plants while they were gone, because of course I still had the spare key. I picked up their mail, fed the cat, and folded a basket of their laundry they forgot to do before leaving. They hadn't even told me Patricia was going. No explanation, no mention. Just a lie by omission wrapped in daughterly guilt. It wasn't the first time either. There was the Christmas dinner 2 years ago, where I was told not to bring my stuffing because the kids prefer Patricia's. There was the time I offered to babysit overnight, and Hannah said she didn't want to burden me, then posted photos of Patricia having a tea party with the kids on Instagram. And then there were the little jabs. "Mom, do you want me to help you with those stairs? Maybe just wear flats. It's safer. You can sit this one out. It's loud in there. You wouldn't like that place. It's all vegan. You probably wouldn't get the movie. It's kind of fast-paced." Always said with a smile. Always said like a compliment. I started to feel like a piece of furniture they were gently trying to move out of the room. I didn't call them. Not while they were on the trip. Not after. Not even when I saw the pictures on Facebook of Patricia sitting on a picnic blanket, holding both my grandchildren like she was queen of the family. I let the silence settle like dust. Instead, I did something I hadn't done in decades. I opened the drawer, the one with my old travel journal in it, from 1978, the summer I spent in Marigold Bay before I got married, before I became Mum, before I started saying I'm fine more than I said my own name. The pages were yellowed, but my handwriting was still clear, loopy, hopeful, the way I used to be. One entry stood out. The sea here smells like rosemary and salt. I watched a dog chase a crab this morning. I laughed so hard people stared. I didn't care. I feel like I've cracked open, like all the parts of me that were sleeping are slowly waking up. I closed the journal and booked a ticket. I didn't leave a note, just a message to the neighbour to watch my dog and a scheduled grocery delivery for when I got back, assuming I wanted to come back. I packed a suitcase with too many books and not enough shoes. I took the linen dress I hadn't worn since David's funeral, and the earrings Hannah said were too dangly for church. And I left. The train smelled like plastic and soap. I sat by the window and watched the cities smear past like watercolour. The farther we got from home, the more my chest loosened. At one point, I reached for my phone to text Hannah something. A reflex. I stopped, put it back. No one needed to know where I was, especially not the ones who never noticed when I was there. Marigold Bay hadn't changed much. Still the same uneven cobblestone paths, still the same peeling paint on the pier. The hotel had new owners, but my favourite room, the one with the view of the crooked lighthouse, was still there. The receptionist was a young man with a soft smile and a nose ring. He called me ma'am in a way that didn't feel condescending. "I'm here for some quiet," I said, when he asked if I needed help with my bag. "Perfect place for it," he said. He was right. The air here didn't judge. I spent the first 2 days walking. Not far, just up and down the coast, along the trail that leads past the little bakery with the almond tarts. I ate at odd hours. I took naps without shame. I sat on benches without pretending to check my phone. I wrote in the journal again. Not like the first time, with big thoughts and flowery words, just fragments. No one asked me to smile today. I saw a dog with one ear. He looked like he'd heard too much. Maybe I'm not tired. Maybe I'm just bored of being tolerated. I had a glass of wine at noon on the 3rd day. Just one. I watched the seagulls argue. I laughed when one of them fell into a bush. No one stared. No one asked if I was feeling okay. No one told me I was too much or not enough. It was the first time in years I didn't feel like a burden. That night, I dreamed of my mother. She was standing in the kitchen, stirring something in a pot. She looked young, vibrant. Her hair pinned up the way she used to wear it on Sundays. "You stayed too long," she said, without looking at me. "Where?" I asked. "In their house, in their story. You stayed too long trying to make it make sense." I woke up with my heart racing. She was right. By the end of the week, I didn't miss them. Not Hannah, not the kids, not the stiff apologies or half-hearted "we love you" texts. I missed who I used to be, and that's what I started writing about. The next morning, I opened my eyes to gulls shrieking and sunlight cutting through linen curtains. It didn't feel like vacation anymore. It felt like escape. I brewed a cup of bitter hotel coffee and sat cross-legged on the bed, journal open in my lap. I didn't write right away. I just stared at the page, wondering what it meant to start over when everyone else thought you were finished. I had spent a lifetime measuring my worth and usefulness. Lunches packed, grandkids watched, beds changed, emotions buffered, and somehow, despite all of it, I'd become invisible. No one blames a ghost for leaving a room. No one notices either. Around noon, I wandered back to the bookstore I'd passed on the first day. The Echo Room, tiny, dust-smelling, with handwritten shelf labels and creaky floorboards. The woman behind the counter looked around my age, maybe older, but with something different in her eyes. She had silver-streaked curls and wore a linen apron over black jeans. Her lipstick was wine-coloured and slightly smudged. I liked her instantly. "Can I help you find something?" she asked, voice low and full of smoke. "I don't know what I'm looking for," I replied. She smiled. "That's when the best ones find you." I found an old copy of Pilgrim at Tinker Creek. It had notes in the margins from a stranger who thought like me. Short thoughts, sharp underlines, emotional flinches inked into the paper. I bought it and asked her name. "May," she said, extending her hand. "And you?" "Celia," I said. "First time back in 40 years." Her eyes warmed. "Then welcome home, Celia." No one had said that to me in years. That evening I took the book and a blanket to the beach. I sat on the dunes, letting the cold settle into my bones. I used to be afraid of cold. Now it felt honest. The pages rustled in the breeze, and I caught myself crying again. Not the hot tears of rage, but the kind that cleanse. The kind that say, "Oh, I'm still in here." Hannah texted that night. "Hope you're getting some rest. We'll be back Sunday." No heart, no question mark. I didn't answer. She didn't deserve to know where I was. On the 4th day, May invited me to a poetry reading she hosted after hours. I almost said no. I wasn't ready to be seen. But I went. There were candles in jam jars, tea in chipped mugs, and a half-circle of metal folding chairs. People read their heartbreaks and silliness and strange dreams aloud, their voices shaking but sure. When May asked if I wanted to share, I surprised myself by saying yes. I read an old entry, one I'd written when David left for a month-long work retreat just after our 20th anniversary. I didn't know loneliness could have such a loud clock. I didn't know marriage could feel like unpaid overtime. When I finished, no one clapped. But one woman put her hand over her heart and whispered, "God, I felt that." It meant more than applause. The next morning I bought a second notebook. Not for memories, for plans. I didn't know what I was planning yet. But something had shifted. Back in the hotel lobby, I overheard a woman on the phone with her daughter. She was arguing about a Christmas visit. "Fine," she snapped, "but I won't sleep on the pull-out again. My back can't take it." The woman caught me smiling and rolled her eyes. "Kids," she said. "They forget we're not made of foam." "They remember when they need something," I offered. She laughed. "Ain't that the truth?" I didn't even know her name, but she felt like an ally. That night, I finally opened my email. I scrolled past bills, ads, and automated messages until I saw it. Subject, family trip, photos. My finger hovered. Then I opened it. There they were. Hannah, Scott, the kids, smiling, matching shirts. Patricia with her arm around my granddaughter. Everyone tan and joyful. Everyone fine. I looked at the picture until it blurred. I didn't feel jealous. I felt erased. Then, underneath the gallery, was one line. "Wish you'd been well enough to join us." That's when I shut my laptop and did something reckless. I booked another 2 weeks. May offered me part-time work at the bookstore. "Only if you're bored," she said, "or just want to feel like someone needs you again." I almost said no, but I said yes. Every morning I opened the creaky door, fed the shop cat, and turned the sign from closed to open. People came in and told me things about their grief, their breakups, the way their children didn't call. And I listened. Not like a mother, just like a person. The next week, Hannah called. I didn't answer. She left a message. "Hey, just checking in. You okay? I noticed you didn't reply to the trip photos. Let me know if you need anything." I listened to it twice, then deleted it. She didn't want to know if I was okay. She wanted reassurance that I wasn't mad. And I wasn't. I was just done. That night I wrote in my journal, "They replaced me on the trip, but I replaced them in my story." The town's routine became mine. Mornings, I'd brew coffee in the lobby pot before guests stirred, read 2 pages, feed the cat. Afternoons, I helped May shelve books or write tiny staff pick cards that said things like, "This made me cry in public, read with tissues." Evenings, I'd walk down to the pier and sit on the bench with my name carved in it. Not my full name, just C+D 78. David had carved it with his pocket knife that summer, when love still felt like promise and not obligation, when he used to write me postcards, not grocery lists. I never showed it to anyone. That bench had held the best version of me once. Now I was trying to meet her again. I wasn't hiding, but I wasn't reachable either. Hannah called again, left another message. "Mom, I'm starting to get worried. Are you all right? Please call me. The kids miss you." That last part almost cracked me. But then I remembered Patricia's arms around them, and I realized I hadn't been missed. I'd been convenient. There's a difference. May noticed the way I clenched the book edges tighter every time my phone buzzed. "You're not obligated to answer people who only notice your silence," she said one afternoon, sorting poetry into alphabet bins. "They're still my family," I replied, out of habit more than belief. She looked at me gently. Family is not a hall pass for disrespect. That night, I sat by the ocean and reread my oldest journal entries. Not the ones about David or the house or motherhood, but the ones before all that. I was funny once. Sharp, a little dramatic. There was one entry that read, "I want to be the kind of old woman who vanishes on purpose, leaves only postcards and a recipe for revenge." I laughed out loud. Then I closed the book and made a decision. I wasn't going back. Not in the way they expected, anyway. I didn't want confrontation. I didn't want to shout or guilt or explain. What I wanted, what I deserved, was space. So I changed the locks on my house. I emailed Hannah a brief note. "I'm fine, I need time. Please don't come uninvited." No warmth, no coldness, just truth. She wrote back instantly. "What's going on? Are you mad at me? I thought you wanted to rest this year. Why are you being like this?" And there it was, the dagger wrapped in concern. "Why are you being like this?" As if self-preservation was rudeness, as if I'd been written into their calendar as available forever, and was now throwing off their schedule. I didn't reply. I didn't owe them closure for choosing myself. 2 weeks later, May handed me an envelope with a smirk. "Someone left this for you at the front desk. Said you'd know what it meant." It was a card. From Hannah. Cream-coloured, formal, her handwriting on the front. "Mum." Inside. "We're hosting a dinner next month. I want you to come. I'll make you a chicken salad. No Patricia this time. Just us. Please?" I stared at the words for a long time. Just us. A peace offering, maybe, but not an apology. I didn't respond. Instead, I wrote a postcard. To myself. It said, "Dear Celia, you are not a mirror. You are a window. See the world again." I mailed it from the tiny blue box outside the Echo Room. May laughed when I told her. "That's the most romantic thing I've ever heard," she said. At night, I began writing longer entries. Fiction. Little stories with versions of me in them. A grandmother who sails away on a stranger's boat. A widow who opens a pie shop that only sells to women who've been lied to. A quiet librarian who fakes her death and opens a used book speakeasy. I wasn't lonely. I was wild with possibility. Then came the letter. A real one. From Hannah. 4 pages, handwritten, smudges on the corners. She said, "I don't know when I started treating you like a fixture. I don't know why I said what I said. Maybe because I've always known you'd say yes. Because you always helped, always stayed quiet, always showed up. And I stopped being grateful. I started assuming. I brought Patricia because she makes everything loud and easy. But she doesn't ask how I'm really doing. She doesn't know I cry in the bathroom. She doesn't remember my teacher's name in 3rd grade. You do? I'm sorry. Please come home. Not as help. Not as Grandma on call. As my mother. I read the letter 3 times. Then I placed it inside my old journal, between 2 pages that still smelled faintly of sunblock and salt. The next day I made my list. Not a packing list. A not going back list. I would not be at their convenience anymore. I would not babysit without joy. I would not cancel my plans to make room for theirs. I would not shrink to keep them comfortable. I would not give more than they're willing to see. And one final point in bold. 6. I will be loved for who I am, not what I provide. I bought a small cottage rental on the edge of Marigold Bay. Just enough space for a desk, a kettle, and my thoughts. I told no one. Except May. And the cat. 3 months after I left, I watched the sunrise through salt-streaked windows in a home that now had my name on the lease and my tea in the cupboard. No one was expecting me anywhere. No one needed me to pick up groceries or kids or phone calls that began with "quick favor." I hadn't spoken to Hannah since the letter. But I hadn't thrown it away either. It stayed tucked in my journal, pressed like a dried apology. Honest, late, still soft. But this part of my life didn't belong to Hannah anymore. It belonged to me. May and I started holding monthly readings at the Echo Room. We called them the Unsaid Evenings. People came. Old men with trembling hands, young women with backpacks full of grief, divorced poets, silent types, loud ones. And me? One night, I read a piece called "The Chair Left Empty." It wasn't about anyone by name, but I saw tears in the front row. One woman nodded like she'd been holding the same pain in her chest for a decade. Afterward, someone asked if I was ever going back to my family. Eventually, I said, but not until I know I'm returning as a person, not as a placeholder. The first time Hannah visited the cottage, it was unannounced. I was clipping herbs by the windowsill. She knocked, awkward, like a teenager on a doorstep. "Hi, Mum." Her voice cracked on the last syllable. She stood there in her polished sandals and cardigan, looking older than I remembered, tired despite the foundation on her cheeks. "I didn't think you'd come," I said. "I wasn't sure either," she replied, "but Leo asked me where you went, and I didn't know what to tell him. I wanted to come before I made something up." That at least was honest. I made us tea, served it in 2 mismatched mugs. Hers said, "I read past my bedtime." Mine said, "Let it steep." We didn't talk about the trip, or Patricia, or what it feels like to be replaced and then remembered. We talked about lemon balm, about how the cat had gained weight, about the breeze. After a long silence, she asked, "Do you want to come back for Thanksgiving?" I stirred my tea. "I might not," I said gently. "I don't want to come back to the version of me who said yes to everything. I'm still unlearning her." Hannah nodded, slowly. "I think I'm unlearning a few things too." She didn't cry, but she looked away, blinking hard. "Will you write to me?" she asked. "Yes," I said, "but not as updates. I'll write stories, and you can decide which parts are about you." She smiled. "Fair?" In the following weeks, the cottage became something else. People started coming to me. One woman knocked on my door with scones and a request to talk about her daughter. Another asked if I could help her write something she couldn't say out loud. I didn't become a therapist or a guru or a substitute for the family they missed. I just listened and served tea. And for the first time in my life, I felt useful without being used. I started mailing postcards. Not to Hannah, not at first, but to my grandson Leo, one every other week. Sometimes a story, sometimes a drawing of a seagull in glasses, sometimes just, "I saw someone juggling oranges. You'd have loved it." Eventually, Hannah wrote back. She included a photo, Leo holding up one of my postcards like it was treasure. No note, just the image. It was enough. One day, Patricia emailed me. A polite, overly punctuated message about missing me at the next family BBQ. How she hoped I was well. That we grandmas have to stick together. I didn't reply. Some echoes don't need answers. On my birthday, May threw a small gathering. 6 people, a pie, a poem. No one sang, but one woman toasted. To Celia, who reminds us that walking away isn't abandonment, it's choosing air over suffocation. I almost cried, but I didn't. Not until later, in the bath, where no one had to see me sob with relief. Thanksgiving came. Hannah didn't call. She came, with Leo and a store-bought pie that was melting slightly at the edges. They didn't stay long. Just enough to sit on my small couch and breathe in the rosemary. Leo ran to the bookshelf, picked out a book I'd marked for him. "This is the one you said had pirates, right?" "Yes, baby, and sea monsters." He curled next to me. Hannah watched, eyes wide with something I couldn't name. Maybe regret, maybe admiration, maybe both. As they were leaving, Hannah paused. "You were right to leave," she whispered. "I didn't leave," I said. "I arrived." That night I wrote a new story. It began, "The woman who everyone forgot became the woman no one could reach without her permission." I smiled, closed the book, lit a candle, and for the first time since the lie about the family trip, I went to sleep without waiting to be remembered.